with Nick Barris.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on Morningline. Nick Barris with you on a Tuesday. Appreciate you being with us. Listen, real quickly, want to update you on a situation that we've been reporting all morning. As you know, there was an active shooting incident that happened in the Antioch area this morning, and the situation now has been resolved. But we understand that at a warehouse there on Antioch Pike, there was a shift change, and at around 6 o'clock this morning, one of the employees at the company kind of was coming out as the other workers were coming in. The individual pulled a gun and started firing. There may have been an argument at some point, whatever, it escalated, and this individual started spraying the building. 3 employees were hit, one in the chest, one in the abdomen, one in the leg. One of those employees is in critical condition. The shooter then took off on foot. Metro police responded on the scene. He apparently was armed with a Glock 9mm with an extended magazine. Police told him to drop the weapon. He did not. He pointed it at them. Police shot him. Police killed him. He is dead this morning. We do not yet have an identification yet on the shooter. We do know that he was an employee for a brief period of time at the warehouse there. One other woman was injured running from the scene, hurt her ankle. She's going to be okay, but one person is in critical condition, and law enforcement is still out there at the scene. So that's basically what we know at this hour. I'm going to check and see if there's anything more. Again, this was at the Smile Direct Club warehouse. When we say club, people hear, oh, was this a nightclub shooting? No, no, no. Smile Direct Club is a club. It's a company that works on teeth and, cleaning teeth and straightening teeth. And this is their warehouse. And this is where people work. And there was a shift change, and we do not yet know a motive for why this shooting happened. But we'll keep you posted. There may be more developments that happen within the next half hour or so. We'll update you. Don Aaron just finished with the news, but there's no longer a threat. The gunman shot and killed. We do wonder if Metro Police, since everyone's wearing body cams these days, have video of the shooting incident and the way that went down. That's something that may be released later today. So, scary situation there. We'll certainly update you throughout the show if anything more happens. But timely that something like this happens when one of our city's leaders is joining us this morning. And I don't think he knows much more than what I just explained, because police just finished with that news conference. But Vice Mayor Jim Shulman joining us. That's always a scary situation. You hear about these active shooting situations. It's happened before here in the city of Nashville, and this happening there. What's your thoughts? You don't know much more than what I just said, right?
No, as you came in this morning, I knew about what, probably less than you did. I was getting information from you guys. It's just, it's just so sad. It's depressing that we have this stuff happening in this country. And I think people go, when will it stop? Yeah. And I'm not sure. I think the concern has always been, Nick, that, we have to protect, I understand we have to protect the Second Amendment, but too many people out there, I believe, who have obviously some type of mental health problem. Have access to guns, and we don't know the story on this one.
Nope, we don't know if he may have legally owned this weapon. As I said, it was a Glock 9mm, we think, handgun with an extended magazine. I know there were witnesses at the scene who said that, they thought maybe he had 2 guns because he just kept shooting. Yeah. And you see windows blown out at the front of the warehouse, and then, like I said, he hit 3 individuals and just had a lot of ammo.
Well, obviously, go back and take a look and figure out what's going on. I think, just recently we've had more discussions between the police and the mental health cooperative here to try to deal better with individuals who are obviously having problems. I don't know, again, the situation here, but it's far too easy for people to get access to guns when they have problems in their background. and then they can get lots of ammunition, and they can do serious harm to people. And look at what happened this morning.
Yeah, we don't know the motive on this, but it was interesting. I didn't know if this was someone just from the outside that just showed up and started shooting, maybe had a connection with someone, but this sounds like it was an employee. Don Aaron said he'd been there for a short period of time, and they're looking into his background. You know, Smile Direct did issue a statement. It says, although Smile Direct is saddened at the shooting that took place at its manufacturing facilities this morning, the incident was contained quickly by security personnel on site, so they may have their own security personnel. Of course, Metro then responded. The safety of our team members is a top priority for our company, and we maintain strict security protocols and a no weapons policy at all of our facilities. We are working with local police as they investigate this matter. So, I mean, it sounds to me like this may have been a disgruntled employee, either with the company, with a supervisor, with a coworker, and it just escalated. And that's, again, hypothetical, but I mean, you know, he worked there. That's
the initial take, you know, but I think the concern that we have here in Nashville and across the country is that we don't want any of these things. We have way too many when you look at other countries around the world. What are we doing? And when are we going to get this stopped? So people go, oh, it's, what I'm concerned about, Nick, is that, you know, it's like, okay, another shooting. It's not acceptable. Yeah. It's simply not acceptable, and until I think our leaders in Washington figure out a better overall policy, this is going to keep happening. When you look at the numbers that keep happening on these things.
Well, yeah, and it seems like things have changed from when we were kids. I mean, I'm just saying that it used to be you have a beef with a fellow employee and it escalates, maybe you get in a fist fight. Nowadays, you come back with a gun. That's the thing that's scary about this. And again, we don't know any more of the details here. They'll be looking into that part of it. But yeah, that's a real concern. They still have the area closed off. I will say this, I would imagine Metro Police, if they have it and can make it available, will show how this shooting went down. Based on what I've heard, and we know police shootings are scrutinized these days, but if this individual was an active shooter who had already shot 3 people, had this gun, refused to drop it, and pointed it at the cops, I had absolutely no problem with them shooting him. Zero. That's the definition, if what they describe is what happened. That's the definition of justified. And so, great job by Metro Police, at least with what we've heard to this point. We'll see if the video tells a different story, but it seems pretty darn clear. This guy's already shot 3 people, refuses to drop the gun, points it at cops. What do you think's going to happen?
Well, hearts go out to the families involved. Obviously, hope people recover. If he had as much ammunition as what they're initially saying. Right. I mean, think about how many other people could have been hurt, particularly if he was just spraying bullets. So
this was during a shift change too. I think I saw there were individuals coming in at 6 o'clock, right? Yeah. And so some of the overnight folks were coming off, and he may have been part of the overnight folks. And then the new crew was coming in, so some of the people arriving saw what happened and said he was just spraying the building with bullets. And I think a supervisor may have been among those injured.
You know. Again, don't know. It sounds like I don't know how many people were there. Sounds like people move fairly quickly, so we'll see what the details show. But obviously, something was not right there. I mean, with the individual. And I was just thinking when. I've been thinking about this a lot. If you've been watching the Olympics. The Biles situation, where mental health has now been put into.
It really has.
Thank you for her for doing that. The mental health component has been put right in the face of everybody, whether she meant to do that or not. Now we worry about that with athletes. We should have been worrying about this years ago with people who have just mental health problems, and we need to get people help. Yeah. So we don't have calls like this in the morning where we have to worry about somebody who disgruntled or what. That's not the way to do it. If you're having mental health problems, you need to seek some help.
Yeah, that's hopefully. Listen, I want to stay on this topic for the moment before we have other things, obviously, we were going to talk to you about this morning. Rick, is there a phone call or two? Let's take Ann. Ann, good morning. Hi, Ann.
Good morning. I have 2 things real quick. First is evictions, many of which took place last week. And last week I waged war on the judges' secretaries, and I'll continue because we have many, many funds, and our president is saying now it's up to the state and the mayors and city leaders to see that people get these funds. So I'd like to know how we're going to make sure that people are getting these funds and landlords are not going to continue to be the ones that says no to these funds, which is what is happening in our courts when people are turned away from legacy court and Judge Bell's court. The second thing is just my opinion. And instead of giving money to people to get the vaccine, a stipend needs to be given to those of us who have already been given the vaccine. Those of us that chose to take it and protect the citizens around us. Instead of giving incentives to people to go out and get it, give the stipend to those of us that were considerate to the people around us. If you want to give money away, give it to those that were considerate to the people to start with, not to the ones that have been sitting around making people sick. And that's just my opinion. But my main question is, what is our city going to do for the people that are being evicted when we have funds sitting in an account that could protect and keep them in housing, which is not available any other place in this city? So thank you and have a good day.
Thank you, Ann. All right, you got some on your plate there.
Ann's making good points. On the eviction stuff, obviously the moratorium has been lifted. There was that movement flying around in Washington to try to extend it. That didn't happen.
Right.
There was money, and there is money available to help people. It sounds like, I was spending some time over the weekend reading about kind of the efforts that were being made from Washington down to try to get the funds out. Didn't sound like it worked all that well. For whatever reason, it just didn't sound like it works. Now you've got this situation where we're not sure what we're getting ready to see. You know, are people going to be all pushed out on the street?
Do you think the sheriff is evicting yet at this point? I mean, I wasn't sure what Ann was referencing. She may have mentioned.
I'm not sure. I hadn't heard anything like that.
Now.
I think what we're looking at now is what's going to happen over the next several weeks, and what can the city do where people not making those phone calls in to get those resources.
Now, why do evictions happen? It happens because you're not paying rent, you've fallen behind.
Right.
And I mean, the thinking here is some individuals are still trying to get back on their feet and can't. But I mean, we know that unemployment's kind of run out. It's not what it was. So, and there are jobs out there. You may quibble over how much some of these jobs pay, but a lot of these people that weren't working, that haven't paid rent, are going to have to find a way to get work and get back going. I mean, I sympathize with everyone who can't pay their rent, but at the same time, you know, there's a lot of folks that rent out there, and they're not all big corporations, okay? There's individuals that rent and have properties, and they have to pay on their property. So it goes both ways. I hate the fact that people are getting evicted, but at some point, if you're not paying, the renter has a right to get some return on their investment.
Right. So I understand the situation. I think the concern was that in order to protect people, there was a lot of federal money that was pushed into
and that money would go toward covering their costs.
And that was to make sure that people during this pandemic, if they weren't working for whatever reason or whatever, and they got behind on the rent, there was money available to make everybody whole, keep people in their housing, and to make sure that the landlords were paid.
Right.
That's, I think, what Ann's talking about. There's a disconnect someplace where there was a lot of money pushed out, but not a lot of money of it was used. And the question is, what do we do now? Because now that the moratorium is lifted, what is going to happen? The best I can tell you is that that money, I believe, is still there. Can we access it, or are there other pots of money to access? I think the not-for-profit world, the government world, we're all going to have to try to figure this thing out. I know that's not really a good answer for Ann. You know, the vice mayor doesn't have, access to all these things and tells people what to do. I think this is another conversation that we have to have with the administration, the mayor, and figure out, as we watch this thing unveil over the next several weeks, several months, how do we help people who get stuck?
Yeah.
Now, going back to your point, yeah, there are jobs available.
Yeah.
There are fights going on in this country between people who are going like, get people back to work, and people going like, well, wait a minute, people may have reasons why they can't go back, childcare, other things like that. We got to come to the table and make it easier for people to be able to access things. And I think we fight a lot and we never really solve anything.
Yeah.
And I worry about that.
Let's take a break on that note. When we come back, we'll continue. We can talk more along those lines. Ernest and Linda, I know you're on hold. If others have questions or comments you want to comment on what was an active shooter situation this morning here in our city, it's going to be national news tonight. I can tell you that. Those stories, unfortunately, happen, and they do make news. And, yeah, you got to report them when it happens. The question is what you do about it, and that's what's frustrating. That, or if you have other questions for the Vice Mayor, we'll take a break and be back with more right after this. Stay with us.